adopt the consent agenda as presented?
Support.
Moved by Scott, supported by Amanda. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item 6 on the agenda is public comment portion of the meeting. Public comments will be accepted at this time. Each statement shall be limited to 5 minutes in duration. Participants shall direct all comments to the board and not to staff or other participants. The board welcomes public comment but does not respond to citizens' concerns at its meetings. At the citizens' request and the board's direction, the superintendent or designee will respond in a timely manner. This meeting is a meeting of the Board of Education in public for the purpose
integrates
comments at this time. Number 7, report. All right.
on this our second do their or lots of things to be happening, table to or field or planting to table, all sorts of things. We, amongst all of the principals and our staff members, attended Thrive Assessment training here last month. And we also held parent-teacher conferences. And at RRO, we had about 90% of our families that attended, which is always great. We shoot for 100%, but
kids who try band in 6th grade, but they don't always stick with it. By the semester, we see a number of them that decide they want to drop. So their parents have paid for an instrument for all this time, and then find out they don't like it, or they're in the wrong instruments and they end up switching. So we're going to move so that every kid in 6th grade is going to try 4 weeks of band and 4 weeks of choir. And while they're there for 4 weeks, they're going to move through and try a trombone, a trumpet, a flute, a clarinet. And so we purchase instruments with this money so that the kids will be able to use those while they're in. Then at the semester, they're going to make an informed choice about what instrument do I want to play, do I want to go into band or choir, and then they'll start that in second semester. So we are very thankful to the Whitehall Community Fund to put that together for us so we can offer that in the first semester of next school year. Summer school planning is underway. We're going to offer that at both RO and NBC. This summer, we have a couple of grants that are paying for that as well. Our aviation camp, which we've been a part of here at Montague for a number of years, and have middle school planning for that is underway. That's continuing to grow, becoming more of a county-wide endeavor. And that started right here with Montague Middle School, and OB Middle School got that together almost 6 years ago. After the new director at the Career Tech Center came on and saw our camp last year, he was very excited about what he saw. He's starting for next school year an aviation mechanics program for our 12th graders, and they're going to have a pilot next year for kids who are currently at the CTC. We'll have an opportunity to go in and try and that program out, and if they get good numbers and they're hoping that some of that middle school program can be a feeder, that's a program they would like to continue on and grow for both juniors and seniors, where kids can potentially end with some certification in aviation mechanics. So kind of cool things that are coming out of our aviation camp. May 8th, we're trying something a little bit new with our 8th graders. We are going to try working with our new career specialist at the ISD. We're planning a career exploration day where 8th graders are going to get out in the community and go see some careers. A lot of them do the Zello, and they're working on those things, and they're trying to say, like, what do I think I might want to do? What are some things I'm interested in and what might be fit? But they really don't have any idea what all these careers are. So we're working at 4 or 5 different categories where they're going to go out to construction trades, to manufacturing, to marketing, and the health sciences. And so we're working with partners so our kids can go out, see those careers, do some hands-on activities, and just explore some interests that they might have, so as they get into high school they have a little more direction.
All right. Spring, full swing sports. I was just at the golf course, so excuse my attire, but Mother Nature doesn't care if it's spring season or not, so we're going with it. Baseball, softball tomorrow. I think track starts this week. Everything is going. Kids are very busy. First day back from spring break. 8 weeks to go. Only 5 weeks to go for seniors. So if you're a senior parent, that goes very quickly after spring break. Just before spring break, we had our March Madness dodgeball tournament, which is always a fan favorite. And we had the finals during an assembly the last day before break. Very exciting. That's actually the trophy right there. Mr. Call, who does seminar in the Cat Lab, his group won, so that's why the trophy's in here. We also pied a teacher, so Mrs. Greenwood got the most money in her envelope, and she not only got pied once, but she actually allowed someone else to pie her for an additional $20. It was her idea, so that was money. The prom committee did that as a fundraiser. State testing, we've already started the ACT. We did that before spring break. SAT, PSAT are on Wednesday, and the MSEP is on Thursday, and then from then on it will just be makeups. We had a lot of kids participate in some of the exam prep through Khan Academy. Mr. Gerke and I worked together with that, and we gave out some Yodel's gift cards for those who had the most time spent in Khan Academy. Last month I forgot to talk about FFA, and I think it's because I had just come back from Lansing to watch some of the awards there, but our chapter did earn the national recognition, so the top chapter in the state of Michigan. We also had Annie Jensen and Grace Torsch, who are both state champions in their speaking areas. Braden Baltimore is in the top 3 for State Star, and Grace Torsch was a winner for the State Star, which is quite an experience. They get on stage, they like push them forward and do all this stuff. So that was really cool, great representation by our kids. Prom is May 3rd at the loading dock in Shelby. And then at the end of this month, I have the pleasure of taking our top 2 students to the top student luncheon for the league. Every school in the league gets to bring 2 students. We actually have a tie for this year's valedictorian and a tie for this year's salutatorian. So this is a super competitive class. They have many kids who are above a 4.0, too many to even be in the top 10. So our valedictorians are Grace Torsch and Bailey Tallquist, and the salutatorians are Adeline Peterson and Kendall Rachel. Our greenhouse class made some succulent gardens for staff just before spring break, so you'll probably see those around. They're in little ceramic houses. And they also did the spring trail at the MAC. They do one in the fall, but they did one kind of an Easter themed trail in the woods at the MAC. We have a FCA group going, which is formerly known as Fellowship of Christian Athletes, but they now just go by FCA. We have some students coming in the mornings once a week before school, meeting together. And our robotics team has finished up their official season. It was a decent season, not the best. They had some robot issues, but they are going to continue meeting kind of by choice. And Mr. Gerke is our robotics coach, and he's all about it. They're going to build a cannon to shoot up t-shirts at the football games. So that is their next thing that they're going to do together. And today, a line dancing club started at lunch. So be looking for some moves if you come to prom. But there were 40 to 45 kids that went today between the 2 lunches. Many boys. So that was exciting to see. Mrs. Lemon is doing that just for fun.
Stolman in the back.
Wow. Goodness. Well, everybody took mine again. Even.
I know, sorry.
I'm serious. Like, really?
We had a week off, there wasn't much to talk about.
There wasn't much to talk about. Shout out again to the FFA. We did move it inside because of spring weather, so it was actually in one of the classrooms this year. And they had anticipation. They put up animals in the window. The kids were super excited. So shout out to FFA. That was awesome. One school, one book. We are doing that also. In curriculum-wise, we're working on fantasy literature and comparing characters. And the kids acted like a real duck and a make-believe duck. That was fun. And then we have Roundup again on the 24th. So if you know anybody that's a prospective kindergartner, please let them know that we're starting enrollment for next fall. And also, we had 98% attendance on conferences this year, which was this last time, which was pretty awesome. And the last thing, we started in math this year. We are using an app called DreamFox that supports our Bridges math. And the kids they reach a goal, they get certificates and positive things to take home to their parents. And it's really nice because it's adaptive, and so it really focuses in on what that student needs at that time. That was it.
Great. Thank you, and thank you to all our administrators and staff throughout the buildings. As you can see, there are a number of different things that have been taking place and will continue to take place. It's hard to believe we're down to a final stretch to the end of the school year. We'll be here before we know it. Moving on to our next report, we have new elementary curriculum presentation for you today. As you can see, there's many wonderful staff members from our elementary here today. And Ms. Jen Stoneman and Sandy Lundquist, the principals, will be working with them to lead us through a presentation. This will be an approval for the May board meeting. It'll be an ELA curriculum that we're looking to adopt within the district, and that will be for the May board meeting when we have the quotes. But they will, I'm sure, give plenty of great info to us.
Well, thanks for having us. It's our pleasure to be able to be here for you. The final, the final opportunity to share with you our decision and how we got to that decision. As you know, Jen and I have been keeping you in the loop every month about what's going on in terms of our ELA book study and so forth. So today we want to just take this opportunity to kind of share our journey, where we've been and where we're going next. But before we do, I think it's only appropriate for each of our staff members to introduce themselves and what their role is, because I know you don't always get to put a name with a face. So Tina, do you want to start?
Sure. Tina Whiting, first grade. Sandra Verne, kindergarten.
Deanne Knapp, 4th and 5th blend. Summer Williams, 2-3 blend.
Tracy Wellness, first grade.
Stephanie Mott, 5th grade.
Jenny Borgwell, second grade.
So each of these teachers have been involved directly in piloting both the EL curriculum and the bookworms curriculum, which you will hear a little bit more about. But I don't want to forget to introduce Karen Snyder. She is our literacy coach. We couldn't do this without her guidance and her support and leadership. So we thank her for being here as well. So what you see on your screen there is just kind of a little walk through the journey. And that is, if you look back in the 2023-24 school year, when I first became principal at RRO, one of the things that we heard most about wanting to change in terms of curriculum was taking a look at our ELA materials and instruction. So we started, if you remember correctly, in a book study. Well, you'll hear a little bit more about that. And then we took into consideration the vision of the Montague area public schools. We then formed a committee, a literacy committee, which is these folks plus a few extras. And then we set about our timeline about how we wanted to take that committee forward and adopt a pilot program for each of the curriculums. And then that's what brings us here today, and that is how we are going to implement it. So let's go ahead and get started, and you can learn a little bit more. Not that we don't love that trophy. I just can't see anything.
All right. Are you ready?
All right, I'm up first. So last year we started the book study. Just like we want our kids to be lifelong learners, we as well try to be lifelong learners. And we knew that we were doing a lot of good things at Montague, but we wanted to be up on the most recent research as far as reading. And this was one of the books that was recommended, Shifting the Balance. And it talked about the 6 different points of teaching reading. And the great thing about it was, it wasn't just a K-5 book. It was actually broken into lower L and upper L, and how they correlated together. And the thing about that too is, it was great because some of the things we were already doing, and that was like, yes, we're on the right path. But there were other things we're like, you know what, we could tweak it just a little bit. Like personally, one of the little things that I could tweak was, I've always done high frequency words and did them in order, but when I learned with this book is, like there's 13 words that if the kids learn those higher frequency words, that gives them access to 25% of the children's reading literature, you know, and so those 13 went to the top of my list. And it was just little tweaks like that on how to, you know, incorporate more of what they call the science of reading into our classrooms. And so we met each month and we read a chapter, we discussed it, we compared it, we talked about, yay, these are the things we're doing, these are the things we aren't doing, how can we incorporate them? And it just was a great learning opportunity because we also got to talk to people outside our grade level, and we're able to talk with grade level, but also able to talk with first grades and second grade, you know, and see how it goes in the continuum from start to finish. So it was a great opportunity for us all to grow.
So after the book study, we came together and, you know, now that we're experts in the science of reading, we created our own vision statement, and we wanted that to support and go along with our district mission statement. What we had going on was not consistent across grade levels, and we know that it's critical to have something consistent that's equitable for all of our students. We also wanted to be sure that the academic and social emotional outcomes were met. And the curriculums that we looked at definitely support that. The students are engaging in challenging and rich texts within their classroom community. They have the support from each other. As far as the behavior, when you have a super engaging curriculum and they're really into it, your behaviors might be a little less because they're so engaged. For academic, it's a background knowledge building curriculum, vocabulary. Differentiated instruction is built right in, so you're hitting all the tiers. And for the organizational structure, down toward the bottom there, number 4, we are checking out our curriculum, and we're ready to have something that's going to meet the needs and help our students be more successful. It also aligned with the science of reading, and veteran teachers can see everything that we need is there for the onboarding process for newer teachers. They'll come in, and it's all there for them, and it's wonderful.
All right, so as Sandra said, last year we did the book study. That was where our journey really began. From that, as we finished that, we created our literacy team, which consists of all of us here, plus a few more. This was totally voluntary. The goal is to have somebody represented from every grade level. So our team here met for the first time in June of last year, and at that point, we had Mary Johnson with the ISD supporting us, and Karen, our principals, of course. So we were all there, and we looked at different programs, and we talked about what would best meet our kids' needs. From that, we decided on the 2 programs that we used this year, which were EL and Bookworms. And so in August, we were ready to learn about these programs, and we were trained on how to use them in our classrooms. So at the beginning of this school year, every grade level had a pilot going on for for each program for bookworms and EL. Our 2 blended classrooms also were using those as well. So we did EL from September through December, and then we began bookworms in January through March. And in March we came together to make our final decision, and it was a unanimous decision, so which showed us, we're all in and we are all wanting to use this program. So our next step is to implement the program next school year. So our committee is all of us here, with a few extras. Lindsay Ellis, who is not here tonight, Sammy Andres, Jen Deegan, and Shonda McNiff. Those were all part of our committee. The ones with a little asterisk bio, they were not at the initial planning sessions and when we started learning about the different programs, but they were part of the pilot team. So last summer we spent, those of us here, for the most part, spent a full day and 2 half days, so 14 hours at the ISD learning about the different programs and resources available, and that's how we got where we are today.
And we had the opportunity to work with Mary at the ISD and some other top people that really led us through the process of how do you choose a new curriculum. And they gave us a bunch of different options, but after we spent some time on that, I felt like we're a pretty smart group, and we decided we'd go with what other people have already vetted for us and already done, so that narrowed it down to bookworms and the EL program, because they both met our requirements for the grant, and they had high ratings. A lot of other school systems have been using them, and so we went with those 2 to see which one would come out at the end. Those were our 2 programs, bookworms and EL education. 2 different programs, but both really great options.
Okay, so the reason we were able to do all of this work was because we had the 35J grant from the state of Michigan. And in that grant, we had to make a lot of promises. And one of the promises that we had to make was that all staff members receive training. That means gym class, that means counselors, that means everyone. So 100% of our staff had to participate in some literacy learning. And a lot of them participated in the shifting balance. And then we had another option for the summer to introduce them to some of the work we're going to do. We had to, so there's lots of criteria involved, and we, thanks to the ISD for helping us out. 2 weeks later, and thankfully Mary Johnson is working with the other schools in the county, and she was able to help us put a plan together and submit our application back in the fall February or so last year, the winter. So we've come a long way. And so this is the big picture. So we did our professional learning, shifting the balance. We identified who is going to be a pilot teacher, what it would look like, what are their commitments. We talked about how we're going to communicate, how do we communicate to other staff members, how we're feeling about specific programs. Staff was able to go on school visits and learning labs and learning walks, which was pretty awesome. I think we went to Mona Shores, we went to Reed City to observe other people doing these programs. Then pilot teachers got their resources and they worked really hard. And then in March we came around and we used a process, we used a protocol to determine which program was our final recommendation. And as Tracy said, it was 100%. And so here we are recommending the board for approval. And then we are getting ready to purchase resources and receive training this summer. And it's all paid for by the grant. So Stacy and Sandy have worked really hard on keeping us all together and with our funding.
So these next 2 slides are just a visual reminder of these teachers who are in the trenches, so to speak, doing the heavy lifting. Because I don't know if you can imagine this, but every day is a new day when you are trying to implement a new curriculum. So every day something new pops up. Oh, I need this, I need that. I need this map, I need these cards, I need this. So it was a lot of like coordination and trying to track down materials. That's where Karen is so very helpful. We partnered with the Muskegon Area District Libraries in getting some of those books to us. But then Karen and Mary Johnson and Jen and I had an opportunity back when they were piloting the EL curriculum to visit classrooms and kind of just get a snapshot of what that looked like in each classroom. And my favorite picture, of course, I have to point out, on the bottom second from the right. If you recall, a couple months ago, I told you about the little boy who was getting ready to go to the bathroom in Xander Berner's kindergarten classroom. But she was so engaging, she was getting ready to talk about some animal, I don't recall what, but he went into the bathroom, shut the door, and then came back out and stuck his head out, like, oh, I can't miss this, and that was we captured that day. So it just goes to prove how very engaged the students were and how hard the teachers worked to make that happen every single day during the pilot, and every day as well.
So we first started with the EL education program that we started piloting right at the beginning of the school year, and that took us through December. And some of the strengths of that core instruction was that we saw a lot of explicit, direct teaching, and we focused on the foundational skills for the children, make sure that those were really their best practice. And then there was a ton of wonderful vocabulary and instructional strategies and student talk, to where we really want those students talking more than we are in the classroom, so that they're sharing their ideas and resources and strategies. It had a very high expectation to be achieved by the students with a lot of really rich vocabulary, and that was also intertwined in their writing. And then it made them really delve into the rigorous, high engaging text. So they really wanted more all the time of the information that we were giving them. And the real kicker was always the student collaboration and engagement, because if they're engaged, they always love what they're doing. The things that we knew that we were going to have to really try to grow in during this instruction was the resources were very cumbersome. They were difficult to find and navigate, especially for a guest teacher or anyone that was doing a short-term or long-term subbing, and any new teacher that we were going to have to hand this off to. The other thing was the core instruction. It was being updated for the next school year, and we didn't have the ability to look at that, nor to figure out how much cost was going to come with that new update. They were both two rigorous resources that we adopted because we started the new EL pilot, and then we also adopted the new Bridges version for math. So we were actually delving into two at the exact same time, trying to learn the new. And our daily schedule provided challenges to teach this because of the teachers that were teaming in the split classrooms. And then bookworms, it had a very high level of engagement for the student learning as well. But it also came with trade books and textbooks that they could hold in their hands, either with partners or individually, to share their experiences and improve their reading fluency and enhance their comprehension, because again, there was a lot of student talk within that as well. And it provided daily intentional opportunities for reading and writing, so they read, but they also wrote about what they just read about every single day. The teachers really appreciated the ease and the organization of these materials. They were much easier to handle and manage, and it was much easier to leave for a guest teacher or a sub, or if we had a new teacher come into the building. Our growth edge was teacher curiosity of the spiral core instruction, the tier 1 in the blended classrooms and the splits. It was a big challenge for those teachers to try to do it all. The daily schedule provided a challenge to teach all of the components with the splits, because they only have a certain amount of time for the new curriculum within the pilot from morning to afternoon when they would split classrooms. Scheduling all of the bookworms components and trying to fit it all in, there was always more that we could do with it, and we were going to try to improve on that enrichment within the classroom. And then the kindergarten inquiry to include books for every student to be engaged in the shared reading. They just didn't have enough books in hand at that time, so we'll have to look more closely into that for kindergarten, but all the other grade levels definitely have enough books for all the students to have book in hands.
You know what? We all touch our noses. We vote you, Jen.
If you haven't heard, our voting was unanimous, and it was really, it was almost like a New Year's Eve countdown. Like, we were so excited to get in that room with Mary. She had it all set up. We had this process that we worked through to do the voting, but it was so fast. It was, I mean, obviously it wasn't apples to apples. So, yeah, we did our voting celebration day, and then moving forward, if you go to the next slide, this is the plan for our professional development. And we have a really great opportunity to be trained by Sharon Walpole, who is the creator of Bookworms. And we were able to partner with North Muskegon Public Schools. They're actually doing the very same process we are, and they also chose Bookworms. And the only way that we could afford to have Sharon Walpole train us is to split the cost financially with North Muskegon. So, once that was decided, Sandy and Karen and Mary were able to get in contact with Sharon's schedule, and she did have time this summer that she could come and train us. So the dates would be June 23rd through 26th. On the first day, all teachers would go to that very initial first training day, and then you would go to the other day depending what grade you teach. So for me, I would go to day 1 for the beginning of it, and then I would go to day 3 for my actual grade 2 training. So since that's in the summer and that can be a little tricky, there is, let me back up. We had a snow day during one of our professional development days on January 20th. So in exchange of that, we were going to plan on one professional development day anyway. So if people can't make these days with Sharon Walpole, then there is an asynchronous option for virtual modules for the teachers to still have the ability to train, which is great, because not everybody can always make those ones. So that's the plan for professional development, and hopefully we have a really good turnout for this Sharon Walpole, because everybody we talked to, Mary, everybody, the schools we visited, they're like, you have to secure Sharon Walpole. It's worth it. So yeah, that's really exciting that we have that opportunity.
So the financial documents, meaning the quotes from the different companies that we're going to obtain for the books, those will be presented to you for the May board meeting. So we wanted to do this presentation today. Another document that you should have received was a list of all the required books by grade level, kindergarten through 5th grade. And so the required text means the teacher will need those books in hand in order to instruct each and every day. So it's a different list for every grade level. Some of them are a book where the teacher reads it out loud or presents it to the students' whole group, and some of them are individual copies that are in the hands of the students. It just kind of depends. On your sheet, if you see it, one says shared reading and one says ELA, and if it's shared reading, then the teacher is reading it out loud to the students, and if it's ELA, then they all have a copy. Did I get that right? I knew.
Strike that, reverse it.
Anyway, who has this that says that? Reverse that. Okay. Anyway, shared reading is when they each have a book in their hands, and ELA is when the teacher is reading it out loud or sharing it with whole group. So you can look forward to those financial documents, but as Jen mentioned before, every single solitary book and materials will be covered under the grant. So we are very, very fortunate. And I will tell you that going into this, I told the group this probably more than once. But they too, myself included, took this test very seriously. And what I tried to help them to understand, and I think we all have to think about, is these are the materials and the instructional strategies that we are going to present to our students probably over the next 7 to 10 years. So that's a huge responsibility, and we took it as such. And so we are the steward of this huge grant, and we feel very privileged to have the opportunity to be able to tap into this money, because I don't really know that if we didn't have this, we may not have this opportunity. So thank you so kindly for listening. But at this time, do you have any questions for any of us, the teachers, myself, Jen, even Karen?
How did the hey, thanks for all the hard work. It's a ton of work and over a long period of time, so I appreciate that a lot. From just a like a student achievement standpoint, was there any measurable difference between the two programs, EL versus bookworms, and long-term student achievement?
I think what we've talked about is the group, and you guys can correct me. Most of the information we have at this point is anecdotal and observational data. If you guys want to speak to it, I do know, Dee, you'd probably be a really good person to speak to this because she also used EL last year. And don't get me wrong, even though we chose bookworms, they're both very rigorous curriculums, and I don't think we could have gone wrong with either one. I do think bookworms was a smarter choice just in terms of the management and onboarding new staff and so forth, like they talked about. But maybe talk a little bit about the writing, the difference you noticed from.
Okay, so yes, with EL, it was really amazing. What the students did, their conversations that they had. With bookworms, I noticed they're also having these great conversations, they're working together. So with EL, they didn't always have their own copy of the book. So with bookworms, for the shared reading, they have their own copy of the book. The shared reading is they're reading with a partner that's chosen based on data. So it's definitely a really good fit, so they can support each other. So they're definitely reading a lot more on their own, and they are writing a written response every day to their shared reading text as well as the ELA text. So the teacher would read aloud, and it's like an interactive read aloud. So every day they're reading a lot more with bookworms. They're writing more. They really are. I mean, EL was good, but this one is a better fit for our students.
Well, I think too, like keeping it into, like when we were coming up, it's not about just what's best for second grade or just, we had to look at the whole program, both programs, and look at the whole district, whole grade, which one offered the best for all of our students. We found that EL was great in like upper L, but personally in kindergarten, it was lacking in things where we felt bookworms really had an equal balance. It wasn't for all students, K through 5th. And I think to talk about like the testing, I believe Mary Johnson from the MASD, didn't she say, was it Muskegon or some school district? They used both. Some teachers did EL for piloting, and some teachers did bookworms. And both EL and bookworms, the scores did well in both areas. It did not matter. So she really was confident that whatever program we chose, we were choosing a good one.
And there's the first grade, we had, with the EL, my kids were probably writing once a week. Bookworms, it's every single day. It's handwriting practice. It's finishing, writing their thoughts on the characters or setting of the story. So it's writing every day. Their handwriting, I might say, is beautiful. Beautiful. Because they're doing it every single day. They're expected to write our word patterns every day. They're expected to use the lines properly and finishing, parts of the story. So I've seen a huge difference.
The vocabulary as well. It's unbelievable, the vocabulary that they will use and write after going through a vocabulary lesson. And so even just conducts of character, once they see that, they use that all the time. And so we always say that we're going to be safe, respectful, and responsible. And so they'll put that with the characters all the time because that's our school philosophy. So they'll put that in there all the time, talking about that and how those characters related to what we're learning every day as well.
So I'm the grant lady, so I just want to be the law lady. And basically what I want to share is that there's the literacy and dyslexia law that's come out, the Public Act. And there's a team of highly esteemed authors and teachers, and there's this huge pool of people that are selecting which programs they think are appropriate for our students and that are in line with science of reading. And from all the information we've been getting from them, just on their research, these were the top 2. So we're all right whatever we do. Yeah, so we just wanted to make sure that we were following suit with that so we wouldn't have to redo anything again. We wanted to make sure that we aligned with okay.
And it followed our books.
Yeah, and Joel, I don't want to disregard your question about test scores and data. What is hard when you're in the middle of a pilot is you're doing it for a short period of time. And so they didn't start with what they had been using prior. So there's really no way to compare the growth from, this is what I was doing before, but they can compare to pre
get through that one book. But with bookworms, we read 4 or 5 books within that same time frame. So for the longer term, they're building all this background knowledge in science and social studies. And like Tracy, you mentioned, one day the kids wrote about the characters and one day they wrote about the setting. So the different writings they do keeps them super engaged. One example is we read about the Wright brothers. And so every day they had to write a journal entry, and on one of the days it was when Orville was in.
Election resolution. The resolution for the MAISD biennial election must be at the board meeting and adopted at the May board meeting. So this is just consideration of resolution, and we'll vote on this next meeting. Correct, Jeff?
Correct.
Okay, item 8. Or do we need? We don't need to vote on it, okay? Did you have comments?
Well, we need to create a representative and alternate.
I don't think that's.
Not at this time for the
So I think it'll be the May meeting.
Yes, so just so there's a full understanding, the biennial election will be Monday, June 2nd. at 5:30 p.m. at the MASD administration offices. You will see the resolution must be considered at not less than one public meeting, so like the April and the May meeting, before we will then vote or have our representative be able to vote for that June 2nd meeting. In the resolution, your board will designate a representative. In 2023, so well, 3-4 for last year, it was Karen as the representative, Scott is the alternate. So you know, for the future, meeting. So you're correct.
All right. All right, item 8B, consideration to approve the 2025-26 school calendar. The suggested motion we need is to approve the 2025-26 school calendar as presented. Moved by Scott, support by Amanda.
Prior to Labor Day weekend, we start on that Monday with the half day to get a better understanding of where we are with our kids in our classrooms. The only, there's two, I would say, changes from this year's calendar in a rollover process would be the midwinter break. Last year we looked to took off the Friday, Monday, Tuesday within midwinter break to try to align more with other county schools in the ISD. We moved it to the 16th, 17th, 18th, which would be the Monday, Tuesday of that week, as there are some districts that are taking that full week off as in full break. That was not the proposal within us in our conversations that took place. There was a professional development in September this past school year where the proposal, not starting prior to that, was the construction projects that needed that extra time to take place, that for the month of August already. In that process to get out in that first or slightly into the second week of June, you do need to start prior to June.
Okay.
So, I mean, that would be the question. For a number of different reasons, on a lot of the early release.
Scott, discussion.
So you probably saw a little early release.
Scott, discussion.
So you probably saw a little media around this already.
Scott, discussion.
So you probably saw a little media around this already, and I had shared via email. He does come to us from Hamilton High School, where he was a teacher there of both physical education and biology. He had some previous experience in Plymouth High School in Indiana. We're excited to have Phil come to the district. As you can see, would be the football coach and a physical education teacher here at the high school. One of the nice things, like I did say, I did show on the certifications, he does have the ability to do many things. So it's not just a physical education teacher, but a social studies and science teacher as well.
Okay. Additional discussion or questions? All those in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item 8D is consideration to approve the purchase of 200 Chromebooks. The suggested motion is to approve the purchase of 200 Chromebooks per the REMC bid from, how do you say that now? Sehi? Say hi? Sehi is how Jeff says it? That's how I'm going to say it.
I'm not saying it's right.
Yeah, I'm going to blame Jeff for all those out there that are correct me for saying it. In the amount of $58,052 to be paid from the Technology and Safety Fund. Moved by Scott. Support by Karen. Discussion.
So you're going to see two in a row here. The first one was our original planned moving here for the board meeting of the 200. And that is moving in a direction as our iPads at the grades 1 and 2 are working their way at end of life. We're looking to put some additional Chromebooks in those first and second graders' hands. So we will not be looking to make the switch at the kindergarten level yet with the iPads to Chromebook, but due to some of the testing and some of the skill sets that are needed, giveaways in some situations, it has become a little difficult in that because then they think that they get the tech support with that from the school, and that's really not the route we're looking to go down as well. So We do work with tech vendors. They actually wipe everything clean, so it's pretty much just a handover. They wipe everything clean and do recycling.
Any additional questions or comments?
These are bids through the REMC process through the state of Michigan.
All those in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item 8E, consideration to approve the purchase of 420 Chromebooks. Suggested motion to approve the purchase of 420 Chromebooks per REMC bid from Sahi in the amount of $121,909.20 to be paid from the Technology and Safety Fund. Moved by Scott, supported by Joel. Discussion.
So these Chromebooks are for the middle school. These will arrive after July 1st, so they'll be part of our Tech Village. By ordering now, we can secure the prices as prices are expected to increase in the recent month or so. These will replace devices that are end of life at the middle school. The middle school is considering looking at the differences between one-to-one versus cart Chromebooks within the carts, which still creates that one-to-one feel within the classrooms, but not one personal Chromebook for every student. So they're working through a process within that. The data from our web monitoring software indicates that home usage is not always being used in the academic nature, so having them in our own classrooms at the end of the day might be beneficial as well. So we'll look at that process, but these are, it'll be actually paid after the July 1 for next year's budget.
Okay. Any additional discussion or comments? All those in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item 8F is consideration of approving the purchase of generators. Suggested motion to approve the purchase of 2 Generac generators per the Sourcewell bid from Wolverine Power Systems in the amount of $60,548 to be paid from the Food Service Fund. Motion by Scott. Support by, was that Karen? Amanda. Discussion.
So Sourcewell is an approved cooperative purchasing program for government, education, and nonprofit organizations. Sourcewell handles the competitive bidding process and awards contracts, which they can then use. This satisfies our competitive bidding requirements. Wolverine Power Systems is approved local Generac vendor for this contract for industrial generators. As you can see, this does come from the Food Service Fund. This would be for NBC and early school. So in the event of the food coolers and things that the power was to go out, there would be generators to help in that process. The generators can then have additional power attached to it as well. This quote is for the physical units. Tom is working on obtaining quotes, Cedar that is, for the additional installation of the units. It is anticipated the additional installation costs will fall under the competitive bid threshold of that $30,000, $30,512 to be exact. So it'll be under that, so it won't be board approval, but there will be an installation cost on these generators as well. It is our practice to obtain 3 quotes, if that is exceeding $10,000, so we will get 3 quotes as far as installation on these generators.
Does that come out of food service funds also?
Correct. It is part of our spending plan that we have to do within our food service budget.
And the other 2 schools already have generators?
The high school does, the MAC does not. That will be proposed in the future. Where we're at on the food service to do 3 just didn't seem to be the right fit at the right time for the budget this time.
Any additional discussion or questions? All right, all those in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item 9 is a closed session to discuss the superintendent evaluation process. We need a motion to go to closed session. Moved by Scott, supported by Karen. We need a roll call for that.
Need a roll call? No. Yes.
I was just confused.
Yes, you do. You need a roll call.
I think we do. I'm pretty sure.
Yes.
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 Yes, sir.
All right. 7:05. Students, if you have your agendas and need them signed off,